The fiery furnace, a story of unwavering faith. In the ancient city of Babylon, where golden towers pierced the sky and the empire stretched as far as the eye could see, there lived a king whose pride knew no bounds. His name was Nebuchadnezzar, and he ruled with absolute power over kingdoms and peoples of every language and nation. King Nebuchadnezzar had recently built something extraordinary, a monument to his own glory. It was an image of gold, 90 feet high and 9 feet wide, gleaming brilliantly in the Babylonian sun. This golden statue stood on the plain of Dura, visible for miles around, a testament to the king's might and magnificence. But this was more than just a statue. The king had issued a decree that would test the very souls of his subjects. He commanded that when the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and all kinds of music filled the air, every person, regardless of their position, nationality, or beliefs, must fall down and worship the golden image. The penalty for disobedience? Death. Not just any death, but being thrown alive into a blazing furnace. Among the multitudes in Babylon were 3 young men who had been brought as captives from Jerusalem years earlier. Their Hebrew names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, but they were known throughout the kingdom by their Babylonian names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These 3 had risen to positions of authority in the province of Babylon, serving the king faithfully and with excellence. Yet these 3 men carried something within them that no earthly power could touch, an unshakable faith in the God of Israel. They had witnessed God's faithfulness throughout their captivity. They had seen their friend Daniel interpret dreams when all the wise men of Babylon stood helpless. They knew that their God was real, powerful, and worthy of their complete devotion. On the day of the dedication ceremony, thousands upon thousands of people gathered on the plain of Dura. Officials, prefects, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates. All the provincial leaders assembled before the towering golden image. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and, for some, with dread. Then it happened. The herald's voice boomed across the plain. Nations and peoples of every language, this is what you are commanded to do. As soon as you hear the sound of the musical instruments, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. The music began. The sound of horns, flutes, and lyres filled the air with a haunting melody. Like a great wave, the multitude fell to their faces before the golden statue. Thousands upon thousands prostrated themselves, their foreheads touching the dust, their bodies trembling, some in devotion, others in fear. But 3 figures remained standing. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood tall and unmoved, their eyes fixed not on the golden image, but on heaven itself. In that moment of profound courage, they made their choice. They would not bow. They could not bow. To do so would be to betray everything they believed, everything they were. It didn't take long for someone to notice. Some astrologers, eager to curry favor with the king, or perhaps jealous of these Hebrew officials, rushed to bring the matter before Nebuchadnezzar. "Your Majesty," they said with barely concealed satisfaction, "may you live forever. You issued a decree that everyone who hears the music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not will be thrown into a blazing furnace. But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." King Nebuchadnezzar's face turned red with fury. How dare they defy him? He had shown these men favor, given them positions of honor, and this was how they repaid him? In a rage, he ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him immediately. When the 3 young men stood before the king's throne, Nebuchadnezzar's anger had not cooled. Yet perhaps because of their previous faithful service, he decided to give them one more chance, a final opportunity to save their lives. "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold I have set up?" The king's voice echoed through the throne room. "Now when you hear the sound of the music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. But if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" The throne room fell silent. Every eye turned to the three Hebrews. This was their moment of decision. They could bow and live, preserving themselves to serve God another day. They could rationalize that a simple bow meant nothing if their hearts remained true. They could reason that they were more useful to their people alive than dead. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't hesitate. Their answer came swift and clear, their voices steady and unafraid. King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. Those words, but even if he does not, would echo through the ages. Here was faith in its purest form. Not a faith that demanded guarantees, not a faith that negotiated with circumstances, but a faith that stood firm regardless of the outcome. They believed God could save them. They believed God would save them. But even if he chose not to, they would not compromise. The king's fury knew no bounds. His face became distorted with rage. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual, so hot that the very air around it shimmered and wavered. Soldiers, the strongest in his army, were commanded to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The 3 young men were bound fully clothed, still wearing their robes, trousers, turbans, and other garments. The furnace roared like a living beast, flames leaping and dancing with terrible intensity. The heat was so extreme that as the soldiers carried the 3 men up the ramp to throw them into the fire, the flames reached out and killed those mighty warriors instantly. Their bodies fell away as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tumbled into the heart of the inferno. King Nebuchadnezzar watched from his throne, satisfaction replacing his anger. Justice, as he saw it, had been served. Those who defied the king of Babylon would pay the ultimate price. But then something happened that would shake Nebuchadnezzar to his very core. The king suddenly leaped to his feet, his eyes wide with astonishment. "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" he demanded of his advisors. "Certainly, your majesty," they replied, confused by his agitation. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, pointing at the furnace with a trembling hand. "I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." It was impossible, yet there it was. Where there should have been ashes and death, there was life and movement. The 3 young Hebrews were walking freely in the midst of the flames, and with them walked a 4th figure, radiant and majestic, a divine presence in the fire. The king approached the opening of the blazing furnace as close as he dared, the heat pushing against him like an invisible wall. His voice cracked with awe and newfound humility. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here." And they came. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego walked out of the furnace that should have consumed them in seconds. The officials, prefects, governors, and royal advisors crowded around them, examining them closely, searching for any sign of harm. Their findings were astounding. Not a hair on their heads was singed, their robes were not scorched, and there was not even the smell of fire on them. They had been in the heart of an inferno heated 7 times beyond its normal intensity, yet they emerged as if they had merely taken a pleasant walk. The impossible had happened. God had not just saved them, he had preserved them completely. The fire had touched only their bonds, setting them free, but leaving them wholly untouched. King Nebuchadnezzar, the most powerful man in the known world, the man who moments before had demanded worship for his golden image, now found himself compelled to worship their God. "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego," he declared before the assembled multitude, "who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. The king went further. He issued a new decree throughout his entire empire. "Therefore I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces and their houses be turned into piles of rubble, for no other God can save in this way." And then, in an act that demonstrated how completely this event had transformed him, Nebuchadnezzar promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. The men who had refused to bow to his image now stood honored before the entire kingdom. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is far more than an ancient tale. It carries profound lessons that resonate across the centuries, speaking to every generation that faces the choice between compromise and conviction. First and foremost, this story teaches us about faith that refuses to waver, even in the face of death itself. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't know they would be rescued. Their faith wasn't based on a guarantee of deliverance, but on the character of God. They said, "Our God is able to deliver us, but even if he does not, we will not bow." This is the kind of faith that changes the world, faith that obeys regardless of outcomes. In our lives, we face our own golden images, pressures to compromise our values, to go along with the crowd, to sacrifice what we know is right for the sake of comfort, acceptance, or safety. This story reminds us that some things are non-negotiable. Our integrity, our core beliefs, and our relationship with God cannot be sold at any price. What we are willing to stand for, we must also be willing to stand alone for. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego teach us that standing for what's right often comes with a cost. They risked everything: their positions, their futures, their very lives. They didn't look for loopholes or justifications. They simply stood firm. Today, standing for our faith might cost us popularity, opportunities, or relationships. This story asks us, what are we willing to sacrifice for what we believe? Perhaps one of the most beautiful truths in this story is that God didn't keep these three men out of the furnace. He joined them in it. The fourth figure walking in the flames represents God's presence with us in our darkest moments. We're not promised a life without trials, but we are promised that we'll never face them alone. God meets us in the fire. The courage of three young men changed an entire empire. Their stand for God led to a pagan king acknowledging the Most High God and issuing a decree protecting God's name throughout the known world. We never know how far the ripples of our faithfulness will reach. Our stand might influence people and situations far beyond what we can see. These three men chose character over comfort, eternal significance over temporary safety. They understood that some things matter more than self-preservation. In our comfort-seeking culture, this story challenges us to ask, what really matters? What are we building our lives on? Are we willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of what's right? The phrase, "but even if he does not," revolutionizes our understanding of faith. Real faith doesn't manipulate God or make demands. It trusts his goodness even when circumstances seem to contradict it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego show us that true faith says, "I believe God can, I believe God will, but even if he doesn't, I'll still trust him." Finally, this story demonstrates that in the end, righteousness prevails. Not always in the way we expect or on our timeline, but God's justice ultimately wins. Those who stood firm were vindicated, honored, and promoted. Those who sought to destroy them were themselves destroyed. While we shouldn't serve God merely for reward, we can trust that faithfulness is never wasted. The story of the fiery furnace challenges each of us to examine our own lives. Where are we being pressured to bow to the golden images of our culture? Where are we compromising what we know is right? What fears are keeping us from standing firm? Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we're called to a faith that stands unshaken when the whole world bows around us. We're called to trust God's character more than we fear the consequences of obedience. We're called to believe that even if we must walk through fire, we will not walk alone. Their story assures us that God sees, God cares, and God acts on behalf of those who trust him. He may not always deliver us from the furnace, but he will always be with us in it. And sometimes, like with these three young men, he delivers us in such a powerful way that even our enemies are forced to acknowledge his greatness. The question is not whether we'll face our fiery furnace moments. We will. The question is, what will we do when the music plays and everyone around us bows? Will we stand? Will we trust? Will we remain faithful, come what may? May the courage of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego inspire us to stand firm in faith, knowing that the God who walked with them in the flames walks with us still. Thank you so much for joining us for this powerful story of faith, courage, and God's faithfulness. I hope the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego has inspired and encouraged you today. If you found value in this video, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people with these transformative biblical stories. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content, biblical narratives, and life-changing lessons. We're committed to bringing you stories that strengthen your faith and challenge you to live with courage and conviction. Click the bell icon to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. We have many more incredible stories and teachings coming your way. And please, share this video with your friends, family, and anyone who needs encouragement to stand firm in their faith. Together, we can spread these timeless truths to people who need to hear them. Thank you again for watching, and may God bless you abundantly as you stand firm in faith, whatever furnace you may face. Until next time, stay blessed and stay faithful.